Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you to UNICEF here in New York, and I'd like immediately to express my deep gratitude to UNICEF for hosting us today, and personally to Mr. Anthony Leigh. First of all, I'd like to say how moved I am from the presence here of so many kids, because today we are going, of course, to discuss the rights of children, about them studying SDGs, and I'm really very moved to see so many children with us today. Welcome to you. Excellencies, distinguished guests, the governments of Bulgaria, Argentina and Malaysia, in partnership with UNICEF, the world's largest lesson, and North Anglia Education, are happy to welcome you today to our joint event in the framework of the ECOSOC High-Level Political Forum that will focus on child participation in the implementation of the 2030 Agenda on Sustainable Development and achieving the SDGs. Our countries, Bulgaria, Argentina and Malaysia, have been strongly advocating for bringing awareness and action on the SDGs to the classroom and for empowering children to be the real agents of change for creating a more sustainable future for all. The three countries have been actively participating in the world's largest lesson global initiative aimed at teaching children about the SDGs since it was launched in 2015. This initiative, which has already mobilized more than 500 million girls and boys in over 160 countries, has become a powerful movement to engage children in the joint effort to achieve the new goals by encouraging them to drive real change in their own lives. Bulgaria believes that child participation and empowerment through education are crucial for achieving sustainable development, and has been actively promoting a rights-based approach in the implementation of the 2030 Agenda, ensuring quality, inclusive education for all. As co-chair of the Group of Friends of Children and the SDGs, Bulgaria has been strongly advocating for integrating children's rights in the 2030 Agenda and for engaging children in the implementation of the agenda by acquainting them with the SDGs in schools. Up to date, more than 40,000 students in over 1,500 schools in Bulgaria have learned about the SDGs in the framework of the world's largest lesson initiative. And in 2016, my government adopted a new law which provides for integrating knowledge on sustainable development in the curriculum. We are honored today to have as a special guest the President of the General Assembly, His Excellency Mr. Peter Thomson, who has been a great champion for the SDGs and a big advocate for children and youth studying about the SDGs. His Excellency Mr. Thomson has been actively promoting the role of children and young people in the implementation of the SDGs since the very beginning of his tenure by encouraging all governments to educate children and young people about the vital importance of the SDGs. Earlier this year, he participated in a high-level event of the Group of Friends of Children and the SDGs, which Bulgaria is proud to co-chair, dedicated to the world's largest lesson learning. Just last month, His Excellency Mr. Thomson convened the SDG Action Event on Education, which had a dedicated session on teaching children and young people about the SDGs and featured young people as speakers. I now have the honor to give the floor to the President of the General Assembly, His Excellency Mr. Peter Thomson.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. To the distinguished panel and to Your Excellency and invited guests from overseas, all courtesies observed, and welcome to all the young people here with us today. It's a great pleasure to address you on the subject that is indeed very dear to my heart, and to hear from the governments and students about how you have turned SDG learning into SDG action. So I commend the organizers for bringing together this global cast of participants. Before I begin, just to put the SDGs into context, I'm sure most of the young people here are aware that in 2015 there were these two great agreements which were consensually agreed to by every country at the United Nations. I'm referring to the Paris Climate Agreement, and I'm referring to the 2030 Sustainable Development Agreement. Now, make no mistake on this. Your future on this planet and the future of your children depend on the faithful implementation of these two agreements. Nothing that I have learned as President of the General Assembly during my term in office has persuaded me otherwise. So that is the importance of gatherings such as this, where you're talking about teaching of the Sustainable Development Goals, which are the core of the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. It can't be more serious than that. So ladies and gentlemen, as many of you know, I am a firm believer in the need for logic, the logic of the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda to be taught to young people, the logic of it. Since the day that my grandchildren accompanied me up onto the stage for the opening of the first meeting of the 71st session of the General Assembly, and I did that to emphasize the fact that this is about young people, the agenda. I have repeatedly underlined that young people have the most to gain or lose from the success or failure of the 2030 agenda. As such, I believe they have the right to know, but also that they will prove to be the critical factor in the transformation needed for us to succeed. In November last year, I wrote to the heads of government, as was mentioned, of every UN member state to urge them to include SDG learning in the school curricula of their countries. Response to that letter has been very positive, I'm glad to say, from many quarters of the world. I also wrote to the deans of over 4,000 institutes of higher education around the world, calling on them to recognize that SDGs must be integral to the teaching in their institutions. Over the course of the year, my emissaries, led by Ambassador Decima Williams, who will shortly be taking my place because I have other commitments across the road, they have traveled to education meetings and institutions of learning around the world to echo that message. And then last month, as was mentioned again, on 28th June, my office convened an SDG action event on education, phenomenally well attended at the United Nations, at which the subject was focused on and at which a series of exhibitors showed how SDG learning is being tailored to different contexts around the world. The feedback we have received from all these efforts has been positive, with many governments telling us that they are benefiting in particular from the UNICEF-supported world's largest lesson. If I could just turn here now, perhaps they could put up their hands because I haven't met them, to address the students among us, Indira, Lisa, Hannah, Sabrina, Sammi, Arthur, Osman, and Luca. Yes, over there. Hi, guys. You are an example to your peers in using what you've learned to help solve some of the world's most pressing challenges. You are fitting representatives of the 1.8 billion young people in our world. The SDGs must become part of your generation's DNA. They must be incorporated into your daily individual choices so that the necessary changes in consumption patterns occur, so that collective wisdom and political will bring about a more inclusive, just, and sustainable world. If we're going to improve the conditions for the almost 800 million people who do not have enough food to eat every day, if we're going to end the conditions under which some 16,000 children under the age of 5 die every day, mainly from and if we're to avert the worst impacts of climate change, then your voices must be heard and your actions become a catalyst for sustained global change. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the first lessons of the SDGs is that they are deeply interconnected. They demand integrated policies and programs that recognize that the progress of one goal often relies on the progress of others. The two goals that you are presenting on today are a prime example of this interconnectedness. SDG 2 on hunger and SDG 3, which is on health and well-being. Addressing malnutrition, for example, is one of the main targets of SDG 2. And until this is properly addressed, it will remain the single largest contributor to disease in this world. Similarly, good health. The world's poor will struggle to maximize the benefits of sustainable agriculture, upon which most of them depend if we do not get that right. And of course, better health food security, and improved nutrition, and indeed quality education are the foundations upon which productive societies are built and through which poverty can be eradicated. As you advance your discussions today, be mindful that we have a mere 13 years left to realize the SDGs. A greater sense of energy must now drive the SDGs, and we must grow the SDG movement far beyond the well-trod environments of international policy making. I therefore leave you with a simple ask. Share your knowledge about the SDGs with the world. Educate your families, your neighbors, your friends. Tweet about your projects. I'm a tweeter. That's probably ancient ways of doing it. I'm sure you've got lots of other social media as to how you can spread your message. So encourage your peers to do the same. Spread the word. Highlight the interconnections between all 17 SDGs. Help us build a global community of SDG actors that will carry us through to a better world by 2030. And be the best you can be as communicators, consumers, and citizens. Ladies and gentlemen, to quote 18-year-old Saul Mwame of Tanzania, who delivered opening remarks at the aforementioned high-level SDG action event on education. It was a stirring moment when this young man from rural Tanzania said that his life lesson was that education is liberation. And education about the SDGs is one of the most powerful tools. We have to put humanity on the right path to liberation from all that ails our place on this planet. And it's up to you young people to do so. I thank you for your attention.
I'd like to thank personally His Excellency, the President of the General Assembly, for his important messages to the children. And now we will hear more about positive experience and leadership of Bulgaria in promoting child participation. The speaker is Ms. Ofeliya Kaneva, who is President of the State Agency of Child Protection with the Council of Ministers of the Republic of Bulgaria. Ms. Kaneva has many years of experience in the field of child rights and child protection, both as an expert and at management positions. She has been actively involved in drafting normative acts in the field of child protection and developing guidelines and methodologies for their implementation. And he has extensive experience also in managing the provision of child protection services. Ms. Kaneva, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ambassador. Dearest young people, and to continue in a friendly manner way, adult-friendly manner way, Your Excellency, Mr. Peter Thomson, Your Excellency, Mr. Anthony Leigh, Excellencies, distinguished guests, it is my honor to address you today on behalf of the government of Bulgaria. Bulgaria is strongly committed to promoting children's rights and ensuring children's participation in all processes affecting their lives. All child policies in Bulgaria follow a right-based approach, taking into consideration the best interests of the child principle and the views and opinion of children themselves. Bulgaria firmly believes that no decision or initiative should be taken or realized without a meaningful participation of children, and the Bulgarian government makes every effort to ensure children's effective involvement in all processes that affect childhood and define the future. UNICEF is a valuable partner and plays a crucial role in all major national initiatives related to child rights. Bulgaria has been actively advocating, including as co-chair of the Group of Friends of Children and the SDGs, for children's participation at global level as well, and for recognizing children as agents of change and not mere recipients of policies designed by others. A tremendous step forward in this regard was made with the adoption of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, and we are committed to making child agency a reality. I would like to give a concrete example of how Bulgaria ensures child participation and child agency in practice. In accordance with the principles of the Convention on the Rights of the Child, a Children's Council was established by the government of Bulgaria in 2003, which resembles the Council of Ministers in its mission and objectives, with the only difference that it is entirely composed of children. 33 children from all parts of Bulgaria are elected through a transparent and inclusive process to serve a 2-year term as members of the Council. The work of the Children's Council mirrors the agenda of the National Child Protection Council, which is Bulgaria's main child rights coordinating body, and has as its main objective to ensure that children's positions on issues related to their rights are fully taken into consideration by the decision makers. No deliberation of the Council of Ministers of Bulgaria related to children's rights goes without consulting children, and no legislative act on issues affecting children is adopted by the government without taking into account children's proposals. A most recent example is the Preschool and School Education Act in force since 2016, which was drafted in close consultation with children and made a crucial step forward also in the efforts of the Bulgarian government to bring the Sustainable Development Goals closer to children. With this new legislation, knowledge on sustainable development was included as one of the 9 key competencies that children should acquire in school, and the topic of sustainable development has been integrated in the curriculum throughout the whole course of education. Children are taught in a child-friendly way, the opposite of adult-friendly, as I began. So children are taught in a child-friendly way the main principles of sustainable development through a participatory learning process that motivates and empowers them to take action for sustainable development in their everyday activities, thus promoting change in their communities and beyond. With the adoption of the 2030 Agenda, the international community renewed its commitment to child participation, and the success of the agenda would largely depend on how we manage to engage children as the real agents of positive change for sustainable development. Bulgaria continues to advocate for child rights and child participation in all intergovernmental processes, with the firm conviction that children should be at the heart of all global action. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kaneva, for your insights on the Bulgarian experience in protecting the rights of children. And now we have the chance to hear from Mr. Estanislao Zawels, who is Director of the Division for International Organizations at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Argentina. He will speak about the positive example of Argentina of engaging ministers with promoting the world's largest lesson initiative, which was recognized last year as an event of national educational interest by the National Ministry of Education of Argentina. Mr. Zawels is a career diplomat with extensive experience in international relations who has held high-level positions both in headquarters and abroad, including at the UN during Argentina's term in the Security Council in the mid-90s. He is also professor of political science and has a number of publications. Mr. Zawels, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank UNICEF, Bulgaria, and Malaysia for all the efforts. It has been a pleasure working together in organizing this side event. In Argentina, our Ministry of Education and Sport found the world's largest lesson global campaign to be a powerful tool to raise awareness about the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Argentina believes that this initiative, which puts students, teachers, and public servants in the education sector at the center of the scene, represents an opportunity to build active and responsible citizenship and to involve the whole education community in the diffusion of information on SDG 4 and its interlinkage with other SDGs. At the same time, we have learned that working within the framework, World's Largest Lesson at Schools, has allowed us to approach some current issues that can sometimes be challenging to incorporate in the academic curricula. After the adoption of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development in September 2015, the Ministry of Education of the City of Buenos Aires echoed the proposal on the world's largest lesson and requested all schools within its jurisdictions to work in the spirit of this global agenda, highlighting the importance of eradicating poverty, addressing inequality and injustice, and dealing with climate change. Our government managed to export the world's largest lessons from the local level to the whole country. The Ministry of Education worked closely with our 24 jurisdictions, resulting in the incorporation and localization of the initiative by more than 10 of them. Let me remember that Argentina is a federal state with 24 provinces, and in which there are 24 ministries of education. The Federal Education Council declared in December 2016 the initiative of educational interest, setting up a formal framework for developing new actions at all levels of our educational system. During the first semester of 2017, Argentina took on the challenge of raising awareness on the world's largest lesson in the Latin American region, encouraging other countries to have a more active role within this campaign. To this end, at Mercosur, Argentina promoted the adoption of a declaration on the interest of the campaign by the 50th meeting of educational ministers of Mercosur, and achieved the commitment of all the education authorities in the group to carry out activities in their own countries. The same proposal was introduced before the Global and Regional Education 2030 Steering Committee by the Argentine members of those bodies. We are committed to continue working in order that the world's largest lesson reaches all schools in our continent, and that concrete actions are implemented at the school level to allow the joint work of students, teachers, public servants, and civil society representatives on this topic to be consolidated. Furthermore, we aim at finding new and innovative ways to reach classrooms with this important topic, ensuring the commitment of the whole educative community in raising awareness on the 2030 agenda and contributing to its implementation. We also hope to achieve full cooperation with other stakeholders such as universities and parliaments at all levels. Let me thank you once again and say that this type of events are an example because they give us the opportunity to witness the concrete impact of the SDGs can have. Let's keep on working together in this direction. Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank His Excellency Mr. Zawels for his remarks, and I'll permit myself a comment. It is more than great that Argentina has promoted the world's largest lesson within Mercosur. Thank you very much. Another great example of bringing the SDGs closer to children will be presented by Mr. Kennedy Mayong, Chargé d'Affaires of the Permanent Mission of Malaysia to the United Nations. It is inspiring to know that the world's largest lesson animation is played on trains across Malaysia, and that a very innovative digital learning platform about the SDGs has been developed to serve all of Malaysia's schools and has been made available also online to 5 million students in Malaysia. Mr. Mayong is a career diplomat with rich experience in international relations and foreign policy. He has completed a number of diplomatic assignments abroad and has held high-level positions in Malaysia's Ministry of Foreign Affairs as well. He is currently the Deputy Permanent Representative of Malaysia to the United Nations. Mr. Mayong, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ambassador. Well, first of all, I'd like to take this opportunity to recognize the presence of His Excellency Mr. Peter Thomson, President of the General Assembly just now, and Mr. Anthony Leigh, UNICEF Executive Director. We are proud to be co-hosting this event alongside with the missions of Bulgaria and Argentina, and also in close partnership with UNICEF and Anglia Education, as we seek to further our children's education in tandem with the SDGs. I take this opportunity also to acknowledge the hard work of the experts and staff in making arrangements for today's event. Well, it gives me a great pleasure to share with you all of you our experience in integrating the world's largest lesson into the Malaysian educational system. As Ambassador Panayotov has briefly mentioned about the implementation of the world's largest lesson in Malaysia, I would like to take you back to when we first introduced WLL teaching modules across primary and secondary schools in Malaysia. Well, immediately after the adoption of the 2030 Agenda, the Ministry of Education Malaysia promoted the integration of the WLL across all public schools in Malaysia, which focus on various themes with a special focus on the impact of pollution on the planet and that affects all our lives, each person's lives, clean water for all, education in transforming the world, and protected life below the water. While the WLL modules were integrated in the Malaysian educational blueprint and teaching materials in various forms, for example, cloud-based virtual learning, digital platforms with the view of encouraging interactive learning sessions, and other informal materials such as even in heroic comics and so on and so forth that can be used in the classroom. This is how we try to attract the young people's participations. And also the feedbacks that we from parents and students were also encouraged, particularly to track and further improve lessons in the classrooms. While we recognize the buy-in of this WLL implementation among parents and students alike could be accelerated with the significant level of political will. This is very important, the political will, and the full commitments of the government. The Minister of Education of Malaysia himself conducted lessons with the use of this WLL module on climate change at a secondary school in October 2015, with this objective of increasing awareness of the importance of education as a prerequisite to sustainable development. So this practice should be continued, and we are continued by our Director General of Education in Malaysia until today. So the implementation of WLL lessons continue to widen in Malaysia. More recently, its implementation was scaled up in one of our states. We have 13 states in Malaysia, so it serves as a pilot project. So I'm sure that we will expand these modules throughout the country. So all that are in place now illustrates that Malaysia's subscription to the importance of education, it's on top of our priority and in a set of tools that are required towards achieving sustainable development. In today's knowledge-driven atmosphere, education is key, as you all are aware. In our efforts, we seek that all targets in the SDG are fully met in the next 10 years or so. So finally, as a country, Malaysia, like other member states, and together with all of you, we need to ensure that our precious stakeholders, young leaders who are here, present here, everywhere, receive the highest standards of education, including through these world's largest modules. Preparing children and youth to partake in the world's affairs is a priority, as they are the ones to safeguard the well-being of our community, our nation, and our future. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayong, for your information about the innovative approach of your country in teaching SDGs in the schools. And now we continue with a concrete example of how SDGs learning happens in practice. We'll hear from students representing North Anglia Education, a network of 44 international schools located in 15 countries across North America, Asia, the Middle East, and Europe. North Anglia Education has fully embraced the SDGs as a powerful vehicle for cultivating children and youth as global citizens and agents of change for a better world by teaching around 40,000 students worldwide about the importance of sustainable development. Now, I'd like to give the floor to the Chief Executive Officer of North Anglia Education, Mr. Andrew Fitzmaurice, to tell us more about the leadership of North Anglia schools in promoting world's largest lesson initiative and SDGs learning. Mr.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'd first like to thank, obviously, His Excellency Peter Thomson and UNICEF, Mr. Leigh, all of the embassies from Bulgaria, Malaysia, Argentina for sponsoring the event. It's a fantastic event and a fantastic opportunity, of course, for our students. We have 40,000 students around the world, of whom 100 of whom are lucky enough to be here today and participating in this event. And you're about to hear from 8 of them who are going to talk to you. The thing that we feel particularly important with this event and with the initiative is the way that it involves all of our students in actual activities with the local community. During the last couple of months, over 13,000 North Anglia Education students have been actively involved with their local communities on 2 of the global goals, that of hunger and health. And I think that that's particularly important because addressing our students in particular here, many of whom are going to go on into important positions, many will go on into leadership positions in different parts of the world, and it'll be the experiences that they've had during recent months which will mean that they've actually learnt to help people and learnt the impact that their actions can have on people in their own community. And I think having had that practical experience is going to stand them in tremendously good stead as they go on to their careers following their education. So I really do commend UNICEF for this wonderful program that they have launched, because I think it is going to make such a massive impact, not just now, but for many, many decades to come as the people that participate in it move on into leadership positions throughout the world. I don't want to say any more than that. I think the main speakers that I'm certainly looking forward to hearing from today are going to be, as well as the distinguished guests here on the table, are going to be our students. And so with that, I will say thank you very much and pass you back to our host for this evening.
I thank Mr. Fitzmaurice, for his briefing and for the commitment of North Anglia Education to teaching SDGs. And now I'm very excited to turn to our children who came from North Anglia schools from all over the world. We'll hear from a panel of 8 student presenters who will share with us how they are learning about the SDGs and how they are taking action for achieving sustainable development. I give the floor to the following children presenters: Indira Patel from Singapore, Lisa Hagens from Vietnam, Hannah Leigh from the United States, Sabrina Zhang from China, Sammi Huang from China, Arthur Lienard from Slovakia, Osman Tatrokov from Thailand, and Luca Frost from the United Arab Emirates. You have the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, the problems of yesterday are ours to fix tomorrow. We are very honoured to have the opportunity to speak to you today about how young people can make a difference in achieving the global goals. I'm Indira Patel, and together with my fellow students, we are representing North Anglia Education. Thank you for having us. North Anglia are the world's leading premium schools organization, with 44 schools located in 15 different countries, and with 38,000 students aged between 2 and 18, we have the potential to influence our generation, therefore being uniquely placed to make positive changes through our shared passion for our planet. And this is what we have done through the world's largest lesson, although we are only a small part of what could potentially be achieved. The global goals are like a jigsaw puzzle. The more pieces join together, the more people working on it, the easier the puzzle becomes, and the closer you are to achieving the picture. Thanks to your leadership and foresight in involving and bringing us as children here, our partnership connects two pieces, allowing us to accelerate the changes you want to see. By strengthening the support of the general population, we can expand in so many different directions and reach so many different people, which is crucial because the jigsaw can't be complete until every piece is in place. During our presentation, we will demonstrate to you how much of an impact we have already had. Later you will hear what we have already begun to do as part of the world's largest lesson towards goals 2 and 3, and our vision for 2030. But we are no different from the rest of our generation. There are thousands more who want to help, thousands more who need to help. We care for our future. Imagine what could be achieved if we were all involved. Everyone has a role to play in achieving the global goals, so a whole generation cannot be ignored. The younger generation always has to deal with the problems created by the generations above. This is because we're in a unique position to see what has gone wrong. We have new influences and experiences. But now, this tradition has spiraled out of control to a critical level, which is why you need us too. We can provide an army of energy, support, and innovation. So why wait? We as children are perfectly capable of making a difference. We can influence others, especially through our power to influence adults and develop good habits. Although our actions may seem too small for you to consider when you deal with such serious and large-scale problems, it is these changes which make the difference, because people can make them. Talking through ideas and programs doesn't work. Taking action, enforcing change, does. Involving schools and young people raises unimaginable awareness, which motivates society to act, not only because they understand the perilous position of our planet, but also because adults feel compelled to outperform those younger than them. Throughout this presentation, we hope to encourage you to present opportunities like this, which are essential to a broader array of young people, which in short is what we have done under UNICEF's guidance, and we want to show you how successful it has been and how it can be expanded upon over the next 10 years. Is it time for a new branch of the UN dedicated to involving young people and the general population? There is only one generation of young people and new ideas, and we are ambitious. The actions we take now determine our future, and we are the future. So should we not be given a chance to shape it? Because we only have one chance to save our planet. I'll now hand over to Luca and Lisa, who will take you through our efforts towards Goal 2.
Rapid economic growth and increased agricultural productivity over the past 2 decades have seen the number of undernourished people drop by almost half. Many developing countries that used to suffer from famine and hunger can now meet the nutritional needs of the most vulnerable. These are the beginning impacts of the actions taken to tackle zero hunger, awaiting a further push from us.
As a part of the UNICEF North Anglia Global Challenge, each of North Anglia's 44 schools internationally have submitted an action plan containing a proposal for their solution to combat Sustainable Development Goals 2 or 3 in their local community. After very careful consideration and much thought, we will now be able to present a selection of solutions from all around the world to provide an insight into the power and impact our global community of students can have in helping to achieve the agenda of Goal 2.
The issues surrounding Sustainable Development Goal 2 manifest in many different forms across the world due to the level of development across regions. This leaves us with a very complicated problem. However, we want to tell you that pertaining to these problems, there is not one simple solution. There is an endless number of solutions. But what we must understand is each and every solution needs to be tailored to fit the needs of every nation, something which many of our students were able to identify and adapt in their action plans.
A solution submitted by students, mainly applicable to the more economically developed countries in the Middle Eastern region, was the concept to create a mobile game targeted towards kids and teenagers that would promote and incentivize good health and well-being by requiring users to be physically active and move around in the real world in order to progress and interact with the game. This solution not only provides a fun way to reduce malnutrition in the community, but it capitalizes on the region's love and fascination with smartphones and emerging technology. Furthermore, this solution provides a highly sustainable turnkey solution, which has the potential to be implemented in many other GCC countries, as their socio-economic development has been seen to somewhat emulate that of the UAE, the country in which this solution has been tailored for.
One innovative solution submitted by Houston was to make a biobox, which provides an alternative option to the aid programs in developed countries. This solution provides a long-term, lasting impact solution, much more sustainable than conventional aid such as physical food donations. Bioboxes provide self-farming packs to families, allowing them to self-sustain and farm, which aid local communities without the need for physical intervention. In addition to raising funds locally in order to provide livestock to developing communities, which will also create self-sustaining solutions to tackle the undernourishment and poverty. Donation of livestock provides a family with produce, which can generate income or provide food. Additionally, any waste could be used for fertilization to help families with self-farming, and as the animal reproduces, larger communities can soon benefit from having their own farm.
Ultimately, we could stand here for hours on end, sharing all of the innovative, collaborative solutions submitted by our community of thousands. But the main essence and driving factor behind us being here today is to demonstrate to you all the sheer scale of the impact that can be achieved simply by mobilizing and engaging a community. Fundamentally, it proves that not only is change more than possible, but can be achieved with relative ease and simple actions, such as community coordination, in order to harness the power of the masses and solve problems on a global scale.
We will now be handing over to Hannah and Osman to talk to you about what our schools have done to tackle Goal 3, good health and well-being.
Thank you very much.
Honorable members and delegates of the United Nations, we believe that complicated issues do not have a single solution.
Across North Anglia Education, students have been addressing Sustainable Development Goal 3, good health and well-being, from a number of angles. This has taken a huge amount of innovation as well as creativity and has resulted in establishing school-wide solutions with impacts on communities spanning as small a scale as the classroom to as large a scale as entire countries. We know that, as North Anglia students, we are in a unique position. With schools situated across the globe, we are exposed to a variety of cultures, levels of development, and different environments. By identifying the main problem areas to do with health and well-being within our local communities, we have harnessed the passions and talents of people in our schools to make a difference in the best way we can.
tremendous number of actions have been undertaken to identify and solve issues within goal number 3. Students were involved in setting up new organizations within their school community and worldwide to ensure that everyone is safe and everyone is tackling the goal properly. Short and long-term solutions were made and debated upon. Systematic discussions were taking place to ensure that everyone's voice has been heard, which made our decisions within our school community fully democratic and ethical.
In low-income areas, students have focused on physical health, as access to treatment for diseases is much less accessible here. By focusing on charitable support, students have been acting as the architects for change, laying down the foundations for providing aid in collaboration with large international organizations. One way that students have aided their local community is in Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam. Pupils in the British Vietnamese International School created an art exhibition centered around the theme of health. By bidding on submitted work, sales, and cash donations, they raised a total of $29,000, funding 7 open heart surgeries for children under the age of 9 in desperate need of care, ultimately saving their lives. This is a huge achievement, but why did it work? Because the students took their passion, their talents, in this case photography, and used them as a springboard for their actions towards achieving global health coverage and access to quality healthcare services, a significant target within Sustainable Development Goal 3. Contrasting to this, in higher income regions, there is a stronger focus on health and well-being of students as individuals. For teenagers today, everyone seems to have an opinion of what we should be, and they all seem to be different. Combined with the cloud of social media that surrounds us all, it is no wonder that the mental health of the new generation is at risk. Taking a more direct, hands-on approach, schools in higher income countries are focusing on how the mental health of students can be improved within school.
His Excellency, Mr. President of General Assembly has mentioned a very serious thing that has to be taken into consideration when addressing global goals, education. And this is exactly what North Anglia Education schools under the leadership of Mr. Andrew Fitzmaurice has been doing. For example, the British International School of Boston in the United States has introduced their campaign, which was aimed at addressing newcomers to their school to make sure that the process is less stressful for them. They created posters, made speeches, and used a variety of different methods to ensure that people who come to their schools are not suffering from depression or loneliness or any other psychological issues that can occur. This triumphant achievement ensured that students are not feeling isolated when they are coming to a new school, because as we all know, a transition into a new school is always a stressful process, and this is exactly what North Anglia Education students have been doing. By getting greeted by someone who they can relate to, newcomers felt more identifiable and thus felt much less stress. This moral can be taken from it. It is that it is important to determine what is the best way to maximize the success of our action. And picking the right resources and people is key to achieve global success. Honorable delegates of the United Nations High-Level Political Forum, our examples demonstrate that through a combined action, it is possible to achieve anything, and that collaboration is key to global success. Without teamwork, critical thinking, and thought-sharing, it is impossible to make any change within the world society. We are confident that in order to achieve innovation and progress within the world we are living today, it is crucial for us to make a system where everyone's voice will be heard, because by this system, we will enrich and transform the lives of billions of men, women, and children in all different parts of the world. We will now yield the floor to the next group, which will present the future plans with collaboration with the United Nations. Thank you.
The world is a team. As global citizens, we have the obligation to be a member of this team. As part of this team, Together, we can change the game for the better. But we cannot win our only game without each other. This is a game that is fair, inclusive, exudes positivity, and oozes kindness, much like the key ideas behind the Sustainable Development Goals. However, have you ever pictured a life, a future, where there is no collaboration, no communication, and no teamwork? Take a second. Picture what that would look like. Does it look something like this? That's because there will be no future. With ongoing wars, political debates, and climate change, this scenario is right around the corner.
So to prevent that from happening, to prevent this from happening, what can we do? Someone once said that alone we can do so little. Together we can do so much. Big ideas start small. Momentous changes often begin with the smallest steps. To solve global issues, we must take these steps together as a team. In this sense, the idea of coordination and collaboration is essential. Yes, brilliant projects and programs have been initiated all around the world and later can be expanded. Yes, tremendous efforts are being made by organizations all over the world to eradicate hunger and improve health and well-being. But we believe that these attempts alone are not enough. What the world needs to see are actual changes on the global scale. To achieve this, we can have collaborations, more collaborations between schools and global organizations or NGOs. As Mr. Fitzmaurice has mentioned earlier, it is these programs that will allow students to finally learn what they cannot in a classroom, to gain knowledge that they cannot read from a textbook, gaining invaluable hands-on experience in the real world in direct relation to the goals. This will serve to coordinate all schools and schools all over the world into providing long-lasting support in a local premise, but on a national and global scale. The annual student excursions that some schools have also provide the perfect platform for large-scale service programs, both local and international, to be developed and revisited between schools. Furthermore, conferences of Model United Nations around the world include over thousands of student delegates each year. Currently, during these conferences, resolutions are being written and debated upon by all these students. However, these resolutions, after the conferences finish, do not go anywhere. They're simply discarded and forgotten about. We believe that the best resolutions could be selected when they're in relation to the goals and submitted to the UN and its delegates. In today's day and age, fresh perspectives can lend to effective solutions. Through considering the opinions of the upcoming generation, member nations will have further support in addressing the goals. The younger generation, even the juniors, will then have a chance to contribute to the future, our future.
The world's largest lesson starts with planting a seed. The one who plants it learns. The community it is planted in benefits. And our world, we gain in resources. It sprouts, it grows, and it blossoms. It creates a nurturing habitat for species, and the fertile soil becomes a supportive environment for future growth. This is exactly what we strive to replicate with the global goals. Through the global goals, we hope that the seeds that we, as young adults, plant end up influencing our global community. We want our ideas and action plans to last. The global challenge taken on by North Anglia Education has led by example how the global goals can be addressed on a local scale. Starting with members of the school community, their habits will easily impact and spread to those around them, reaching a range of people.
On a final note, tomorrow we will achieve what we cannot today. The two goals that have been picked out for students all across the world to focus on will be what the action plans are based on for the future. However, we must not forget that the past is our lesson for the future, and we must not forget these lessons.
Time is a continuous quantity. What we have learned from the goals which have been targeted in the past, we must remember to incorporate into our future. Our role as global citizens extends beyond our own well-being, but rather that of the ones around us too. We aim to collaborate sustainably on this project because we don't just want to focus on our individual todays, but rather on our collective tomorrows. Now we will be handing over to Arthur to conclude today's presentation.
Thank you.
Collaboration, innovation, and engagement. All the projects conducted by North Anglia students had the three same recurring themes. Without collaboration, there is no sharing of ideas. And with that, we lose the best resource that we have. It is crucial for the success of the global goals that we look beyond our pride, our faith, and our set ideas towards each other. Whether it is in a classroom, like we successfully did, or in political discussions, we must overlook our personal benefit and seek our success in helping millions of lives now and the many generations to come. Without innovation, we only repeat the obsolete methods of the past. It's important to innovate and find new ways of bringing positive change. Therefore, all young people need to be involved in projects as we bring a new perspective and we provide a futuristic approach that may be the turning point in the success of the global goals. Thus, our actions will be strengthened by cooperation between generations. Without engagement and participation of a maximum number of people, any action taken will not succeed. It is important not only to raise awareness, but to get people involved. In the schools of North Anglia, everyone participated because we believe that for real change to happen by 2030, we need the help of everyone. No matter their age, their job, or their wealth, everyone should learn about the global goals in order to create a global action. Knowledge of the global goals can be acquired through many means. It doesn't have to be private education or prestigious schools, but instead learning from peers, posters, family, or even relatives. The road to 2030 won't be easy. Not all projects work. Not all actions lead to success. And when things go wrong, we must not continue to run headstraight into more trouble. Instead, we reflect, rethink, and revise. The global goals are our priority, and there's no space for ego. Our world is ever-changing. Traditionally, youth is being taught by people who are older than us. And the people who are older than us, well, they teach us about people who are even older. This allows traditions, languages, and cultures to be carried on. However, when it is about shaping the world of tomorrow and making the future, maybe it is time that youth is given a major role, because with our new perspective will come innovation, and with innovation will come the success of the global goals. In the words of Gandhi, the future depends on what we do in the present. Let's act now. Let's not fall in the easy path of postponing things to later. Let's rise to the challenges now and work together to reach the global goals. North Anglia students paved the way for school projects, and we hope many will follow. Today, 8 students spoke, but there are millions who couldn't speak but care about the future. Not every voice can be heard, but everyone can be reached. For us, we chose progress. And now, what will you choose? Thank you very much.
I would like to thank from the bottom of my heart our children presenters for their passionate presentations. Thank you very, very much. And now I have the honor to give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Anthony Leigh, Executive Director of UNICEF. But before Mr. Leigh takes the floor, I would like to commend his leadership. I would like to express our deepest gratitude for his enormous contribution in improving the life of children all over the world. Mr. Leigh has put a special emphasis on equity and reaching those children who are farther behind first. Furthermore, he has focused UNICEF on research that shows how reaching the most marginalized can also be more cost efficient. That is very important. Mr. Leigh has been actively supporting the world's largest lesson learning initiative as a powerful tool to engage children in the implementation of the SDGs. Mr. Leigh, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, and thank you for those kind words. If I may offer an amendment, I think as they do at the General Assembly, and for Mr. Leigh, please substitute all of our colleagues at UNICEF and all our partners who are engaged in this work, and thank you. And thank you to our friends from Bulgaria and Argentina and Malaysia. And thank you, Nord Anglia Education. And Andrew, you must be so proud of what we all just heard. So let me thank especially and welcome Sabrina, Sammi, Arthur, Luca, Hannah, Lisa, Indira, and Osman for sharing your thoughts and all your great projects. Maybe another hand. It's not just that your projects are bringing the world's largest lesson to life. And by the way, I left out, and please convey to Peter my huge admiration, because without Peter Thomson, there would be no world's largest lesson, seriously, and no SDGs as we know them, so please convey that. You're, besides talking about the world's largest lesson, you really are demonstrating that young people are ready and able to lend your hands and your hearts and your minds to the biggest challenges confronting our world. Challenges like climate change, poverty, hunger, disease, conflicts, inequality. I'm afraid I could go on, and I won't. And as we who are just maybe a little bit older than you are, listen to you, and as we learn from you, we're inspired not only by your passion and your dedication today, but by, I believe, the responsible, creative, and dedicated global citizens that you're becoming. Because while the task of building the better future envisioned by the Sustainable Development Goals rests primarily, in truth, with today's adults, it will be carried on by young people, by a generation of thinkers and leaders and doers who will not only inherit and shape their world, but who are advocating for and insisting on a better world now. So I can see what a difference the world's largest lesson has already made for you and for those around you, just as at a rather younger age, I found when I was in the 5th grade that I was asked to do a report on Brazil. And it wasn't just Brazil that I learned about as I wrote the report and then drew a map of Brazil. I'm sorry, Argentina, for choosing this particular case, but that's what it was. But suddenly I found a curiosity about the world, just from in the 5th grade writing about that one country that went well beyond my hometown. And that's the real value of the world's largest lessons, not to force students to memorize 17 goals. Have any of you memorized all 17? No, okay. Because if you had, then I was going to ask you to recite 169 targets and 230 indicators after this session. The real value of the lesson is learning about the challenges of poverty and climate change, about the multiple needs of the disadvantaged and the denial of their rights in every country, including within blocks of this building. Excuse me. And how you can make social activism a part of everyday life for all of you. To inspire not only in you a curiosity about the world, but a commitment to making it better, to doing this. And knowing that changing the world begins for all youth in changing their world, both real and virtual and beyond. So to the students in this room, your projects remind us of, yes, Gandhi, but also Dr. Martin Luther King's call to action when he said, "Tomorrow is today." Through your work, you're demonstrating that the path to a better tomorrow is already before us, and that every young person can and indeed must play a part in charting and traveling that path, as you are. So in short, I hope each of you looks forward to leading a happy and fulfilling life, making constructive trouble. Is that what you want to do? Raise your hand if that is what you're going to do. No? None of you want to? Good, okay. For those of you who did not raise your hand and did not want to help change the world, please see me afterwards and we'll have a brief discussion. So anyway, I am filled with admiration and inspiration and energy from your projects, and thank you so very much. And again, you must be very proud. Thank you.
So, child participation is, to me, the most important message, and I would like to thank Mr. Anthony Leigh for delivering it today. And now, before we open the floor for questions, we would like to share with you a short video showcasing the first youth-led world's largest lesson activation that took place in Cartagena, Colombia, 2 days ago, on the 12th of July. As part of a forum called Youth Speak Forum. 5,000 Cartagena's students joined millions of children in over 100 countries to take part in the world's largest lesson in one single day, as 600 young activists from around the world educate their Colombian peers about the global goals. 2 UNICEF Colombia Goodwill ambassadors have joined the efforts as facilitators, teaching students about the global goals. Colombian Minister of Education, Her Excellency Ms. Janet Guija, has also honored the event, lauding the young people's engagement in support of the SDGs.
Activating youth leadership does not happen behind closed doors. And yesterday was a testament of that, when 600 ISECers decided to take the opportunity to deliver the world's largest lesson to more than 5,000 kids across the city of Cartagena, Colombia, being a testament of the power of young people. Young people are a growth engine for a better society and create a better future for the world.
Yesterday was the first youth takeover of the world's largest lesson. We saw 600 ISECers teach the global goals to 5,000 children in Cartagena. This is a new chapter in the story of the world's largest lesson, and it's being written for young people, by young people, which has proved to be an incredibly powerful experience for everyone involved. But this is just the beginning.
You're never too young to take action for the world.
ISEC's mission is achieving peace and fulfillment of humankind's potential. And if there was one feeling that I left after yesterday with, it's a feeling of hope. A feeling of hope because of these young people and their mission and what they strive for.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, it's needless to say that we're running out of time. But I would like to open the floor for comments and questions. And we'd be happy to hear from the children in the room as well. Please introduce yourself when you take the floor, please.
Hello. My name is Najm Abakil. I'm a 16-year-old high school student from North Africa. For the summer, I'm currently working with an NGO here at the United Nations. So as we heard from the students' presentations, obviously North Anglia is doing really great work at implementing awareness for the Sustainable Development Goals for youth. However, many high schools around the world, including my own, don't teach their students about the Sustainable Development Goals. So my question is related to technological innovation in regards to raising that awareness. And recently, I believe it was UNICEF actually partnered with Microsoft to release a course for students relating to how teachers can implement technology into their SDG lessons. And Mr. Mayong actually touched a little bit upon on this during his speech. So I was wondering if any of you could answer the question as to what you actually think about the use of technology in the classrooms for raising awareness of the SDGs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bakel. Probably I'll take a couple of more questions. Yes.
Hi, my name is Alison Bellwood, and I'm the director of the World's Largest Lesson. Today's been really overwhelming. It's amazing. On behalf of Richard Curtis and everyone at Project Everyone, I'd really like to thank everyone who's been involved in putting together this event, but I'd particularly like to thank Mr. Leigh and UNICEF and everyone here for their continued support in helping to bring the World's Largest Lesson to life. The SDGs are a really optimistic plan for people and planet, and young people, more than any other group, are critical to their achievement. But as you've heard today, they are the group who are most excited about seeing them achieved. The idea behind the World's Largest Lesson has always been really, really simple. It is just there to plant the seed, and I think one of the students mentioned this as well, to plant the seed of the SDGs into young people. And with the right conditions and the imaginations that they have, then they can make that seed grow, and they can turn that into action all on their own. So it is just a simple idea. We have seen that this works today through the actions and the empathy shown by all the students here. But our ambition does not stop until every child has the opportunity to learn about the goals and to turn that knowledge and that support into action. So to achieve this, we have to do things differently. Some of the work, all of the work that these students are doing is demonstrating doing things differently. And the example in Cartagena is also doing things differently. All of you have supported us for the last 3 years, and I thank the representatives from Bulgaria, Argentina, and Malaysia for everything you've done in your countries and in your regions, but we cannot stop. So everyone in this room, I ask you to continue to support us, to find more ways to reach children, and be really, really creative in doing that. Thank you.
Thank you for your warm comments. Next question, please.
Hello everyone, I am Aditya Bhandari. I am representing IFMSA, which stands for International Federation of Medical Student Association, and I am from India. I have one question and a suggestion comment. Question is, do you have a planned framework or structure in your curriculum that supports or tells students about sustainable development goal, or is there any planned thing in your curriculum in teaching, classroom teaching? And second suggestion is, it's related to SDG 2. I happen to work with one of the volunteer organization which is named as Robin Hood Army. It works on elimination of food wastage. You know, SDG 2 mainly focus on increasing and doubling the production of food. But I come from India, where not just, the problem is not the less of food, but the problem is the wastage that we do from the food. So our organization, what it does is collect whatever leftover food is there in any restaurant, hotel, or marriage function, which is delivered to someone who is in need. So that amount of food that was a waste for someone would actually be a treasure. In an old saying that someone's trance can be someone's treasure. So that is what my organization is doing, and it's running in 41 different cities in the world, including Malaysia. So this is a suggestion to the young students, if you can also add this in your innovative programs to also look for elimination of food wastage. I guess then you could also add things, and this is my suggestion to you. Thank you so much.
That is very important indeed. Yeah, I see two more, please.
Thank you. I'm Adolfo Bayori from the Center for the UNESCO of Catalonia. Following what Mr. Leigh said and some of the remarks of the students, it seems that a big risk that could have is that promoting SDG on education systems lead to put the contents in textbooks and make them memorize them and explain it in exams instead of taking as part of them. So UNESCO was saying in the World Education Forum and also in the last report that education systems should move towards a learning-centered approach and towards an interdisciplinary active learning system. And I wonder whether something could be done to move the two paths together. So promoting learning systems that are more learning-centered in a way that allow the SDGs to be part not of the subject that you have to learn on Tuesday at 5, but as the main topic of learning interdisciplinarily that make people be different and able to reach global goals.
Thank you. There was a question from the back there. Yes.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Clara. I'm the Danish UN Youth Delegate. And first of all, I just wanted to say thanks to the World's Largest Lesson and to UNICEF for bringing the voices of young people to the table. I think it's really important, and what a great presentation. It was really inspiring. And then my question, I just want to know from you, what are the next steps? How do we follow up on these really great ideas? Thank you.
Thank you. Good question. I see another question here on my left.
My name is Banti Huntuzazu. I am a professional engineer working full-time for the last 6 years on achieving Sustainable Development Goals. And my congratulations on the job well done, and keep it up, and I encourage you with all my heart all the way. My belief is that Sustainable Development Goals are achievable. They can be achieved within the time allocated, because they are going to be done, and they could be done in parallel and not in a serial process with limited resources as they are being perpetuated at this time. So I am suggesting, in fact, for you, working on goals 2 and 3 is not only adequate, because you have to include goal 1. Goal 1 is eradicating poverty. The reason for poverty is that people are not creating values. They spend the whole day and make less than $2 a day in the biggest continent, in Africa, which is not part of the Anglia schools. So I have created a disruption process. I am trying to hand out a disruption, 12 disruptions to achieve Sustainable Development Goals. Those are disrupt poverty. Disrupt poverty means allow every person to create value which is more than $2 a day or tenfold, so that they can be able to buy their own medicines, they can be able to go to schools, they can be able to do that. For that, the global body is one team with a set of goals, and achieving and reaching the goals is a united effort, not a responsibility of individual country, because a team scores and wins not because of one person, but all teams together. So achieve, disrupt inequality, disrupt health, disrupt. There are 12 disruptions that I'm advocating. So please join hands in disrupting this and involving children to aspire to be engaged, so that they have the biggest outlook. Once they are motivated, they can be part of you. They are the future, and the future can be reconstructed. As a professional engineer, we can break the system that's not working and reconstruct things. The engineering approach is selected because it's objective, it's all-inclusive, it takes every challenging issue as a constraint and tries to solve them for a win-win solution. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. I would like to thank you all for your active participation and I think very valuable thoughts, comments, and ideas you have shared with us. And I would like now to turn back to the panelists to see if any of them wishes to reflect on some of the points raised. I'd like to remind you there were a question about technological innovation on how to introduce SDGs, SDG lessons at school. That was the first question. After that, there was a question, do we have a plan about restructuring the curriculum? Also, with special emphasis on preventing food wastage. That is probably in the broader context of food security. There was another question, how the education system could move to learning systems that are more learning centered. Next question, what is the follow-up of our endeavors? And there is no need to repeat the last suggestion we heard, to include goal 1, eradicating poverty, and to focus on it. So, somebody from the panel?
May we have time for one more question?
Oh, I apologize. I apologize, I didn't see you.
No, that's okay. My name is Charlene Sequeira. I'm a designer and design strategist focused on education and sustainability. And my question is that, I mean, it's so amazing to see schools like this really embracing the sustainable development goals. But what are the challenges and how can we overcome them when we look at integrating sustainable development goals and curriculum in public schools and public school systems that are more rigid in their structure?
All right, thank you. Thank you. I'd like immediately to give you a partial answer only on my behalf, as just as representative of Bulgaria. In Bulgaria, we introduced the SDGs, the learning about SDGs in public schools mainly in public schools. This is because of the specifics of our educational system. But of course, I'll give the floor to the other panelists to answer a question. Okay, Mr. Leigh, please.
If anybody else? Let me actually take them in the reverse order in which they came and begin with SDG 1 and poverty. One of the things about the SDGs is that, unlike the MDGs, and it's a wonderful thing, is that it defines poverty not only in monetary terms, $2 a day or whatever, but multidimensional poverty in all its aspects, which means in everything you're doing in all of the SDGs, you are addressing poverty in its most meaningful way in the lives of poor people, which leads us then to all the other very good questions and comments. I would suggest that when it comes to how do you integrate this into the curriculum, one, of course, is you integrate it into the curriculum. I'll come back to that. But the other is for schools and teachers to encourage youth, as you all are doing, to act in your communities, to do things that drive home then the importance, even in a small way, of the very large issues you're talking about, and then become more of an activist more generally. So join in on distributing leftover food. There's a very good program in New York City that does this and in many other places. Distribute some of the food yourself. Take it to people who are in need, homeless people within blocks of here. And by the way, when you hand them food, please say hello to them and treat them like human beings, not simply as objects of pity. Another way to act on it, to come back to the first question, was how can you use technology in the classrooms? Well, you can use the technology in the classroom, certainly, and we're working on that and using it in various ways, especially for distance learning. But I'd say more importantly is that I've heard there's something called the internet. They invented since recently. I don't try to keep up on these things. And why not all of you then, including with your friends in public schools, why not through tweeting, Facebook, whatever you can do, reach out to other students and suggest to the students that they ask or even demand of their teachers that their teachers include teaching about not just the SDGs, but the issues behind the SDGs that the SDGs are describing. And use social media and go out and make trouble, as I was saying, through students, demanding of teachers that they do a better job of teaching, which is to say, include issues like this. And do go out and work in your communities as well. I promise you that for the rest of your life, as you grow when you're working on this at these issues on a general level, you will always remember what you did in your communities very specifically to make a difference on any one of these SDGs.
Thank you. Well, of course, I'm one of the most impressed people being here after the wonderful presentations of the young people. Thank you so much. I took notes all the time. You were talking, and actually I will follow your advices in my next week's agenda. So I would like to make a few answers and a few comments, starting with the follow-up with the next steps, which I will personally take after I leave New York tomorrow. In the next week, I will share all the examples and all the advices that were given today with a few networks. First, I will share them with the members of the Council of Children. Second, I will share them with the National School Network. We have a very well-organized system of sharing information in Bulgaria, which is mainly based on public schools, but it also involves private schools all over the country, so I will use this network to share this information. I will share it with the media. I've already arranged some interviews in the national media for the next week for being here and sharing the information with the achievements of today's meeting, so I will do this certainly. And I will mainly share the opinion of young people, which I heard today, because I think this is the most efficient way to impress people with the knowledge and with the goals that Agenda 2030 puts in front of us. I will share it with, of course, with the member of the government, Bulgarian government, which are responsible for the policy for children. And although it's expected from me to coordinate all the ministers and the mayors in the country that are dedicating their efforts to the policy of children, I will personally approach each one of them with sharing the information from today's event, just to be sure that they are more touched than expected. And they will really read what you young people today addressed to us. And on fifth time, but it's not the last, of course, I will do this so the next week. I will share all the information I gathered today with a few school positive networks in which I'm membering. There is such kind of practice in our public schools, in which students and teachers together are membering cloud-based network or Facebook network, something like this, in which they share only positive thoughts and positive achievements and positive ways of managing with everyday living at school and in young years. So this will be the fifth group of sharing. Till the end of the year, I will surely continue promoting the child participation idea in general. This is one of my main goals for this year, and it's actually one of the priorities of the State Agency for Child Protection. It was put in 2017, but of course, for every one of you, it's clear that it's not limited to the very end of the year. It's just the beginning. So, in concreteness, I will share the information from today's meeting and the ideas that were raised today in the European Asian Forum of ASAF that will be held in Bulgaria between 6th and 9th of November. And I invite all of you to follow it and to try to take part of it by internet or by participating yourself as well. Bulgaria, as the hosting country, is inviting each and every delegation of ASAF forum to bring a child in its delegation, so you're invited. I will also share it in the Council of Europe and the Ad hoc Committee of the Rights of the Child, and I think it will be very well listened, what I will share. And I will also put it in the events, in the agenda of the Bulgarian presidency of EU. We are planning more than 1,500 events for the next 6 months from the beginning of 2018. So I'm sure at least in 15 you will take part with your achievements from today. And as to the new technologies in school, of course we promote that, and we are trying to welcome more companies to enter our schools, our classrooms. But we also put effort in kindergartens area, because we truly believe in early development for children. And this is something that we are really trying to promote and trying to support. I'm personally engaged with that. So, maybe to give the floor to the others. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes?
Just briefly. Thank you, Excellency. Thank you, everybody. I'd just like to briefly share my views on this, since a question on the access to technology, because some of it depends on the political will, and some depends on the government and the infrastructures available in countries. And it also involves partnerships with the private sector. There are a lot of, and also social media, whether you can get that information through to YouTube and so on and so forth. It's up to the individual to choose the information that is beneficial to them. And like I said, also it involves whether you have this information, the infrastructure. I do also just acknowledge the problems of wastage of food. It happens in developed countries. And also, one of the questions was, it's also happened in other countries, and less developed countries. So you have to find efforts, pass this to the young people, to find efforts why this thing happened. And maybe UN is also a forum where we discuss these things, and we work together with everybody. You have a role to play, and to find out what is happening, and how we can there was a question on what is the next steps and how to eliminate all these issues that we are facing. And also on the active learning, I'd just like to put the importance of a life learning process, where we want to incorporate the SDG, what we are shared by the students, in having to be part of the global education. And also, in summary, actually we need, why do we need governments to provide all these things? We are all here, we are doing our part. So I encourage everybody, each and all of you, like what the students have, I listened to the presentation, that you all have a part, we all have a part. So we need to work together in helping the UN and helping each other, helping the government. So we can't wait for the government to provide all these facilities. So I end with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayong.
Just a few comments. Regarding technology, I believe it's quite difficult to think about education today without technology. And technology is available, and it's each time it's more available. So I think there is no doubt about that, and technology is a tool, only a tool. I believe too that the world's largest lesson has shown that you need political will to bring the ideas or the vision of the SDGs to the classrooms. And that's, you need, political will means that, for instance, in Argentina, what we did is that the Minister of Education went to a school and then promote in federal basis to other ministries of education, and 10 of them also went to their schools and make awareness to the headmasters of the schools and then to the teachers and to the students. But that's, I think it's the more important thing that you need is to have political will at the government, and then technology will do the rest to spread the ideas. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I would like to acknowledge the presence here with us today of Ms. Decima Williams, who is Special Advisor for Implementation of the SDGs in the Office of the President of the General Assembly, for her brief remarks. And I am being told she has a very nice surprise for somebody.
Thank you. Thank you very much, distinguished colleagues, members of the table. Mr. Anthony Leigh, our esteemed child leader. And now I know where your passion comes from, having traveled and lived in the developing countries at an early age, very similar to what we see here. So thank you, everyone, for inviting the Office of the Presidency to be part of it. And you heard from the President himself. I'd like to put on record again his thanks to the world's largest lessons, and for giving us the opportunity to partner with you during this year. Thank you very much, and continue to escalate so we could see the things in Colombia spread worldwide. May I offer a very special thanks again to UNICEF for hosting this. It is a unique event, and I am so impressed with the package. And like the minister from Bulgaria, I also have begun to list what I can potentially do. Thank you, UNICEF. And thank you to North Anglia School. Now, this is a very important, something that's very dear to my heart. When I walked in and I saw these faces, you know, this ocean of young, hopeful, open, I think your minds are open because your eyes were wide open, your jaws were almost falling out. I get a new energy that lasts me a long time. I remember when Nelson Mandela came out of prison, he said he missed people after being in prison for 27 years, and most of that in solitary isolation. But most of all, he missed children, the energy of the young people. You have it, and you are using it. You characterize the SDGs as a jigsaw, and you say that as a jigsaw, one cannot fit without all the others fitting, and that is absolutely true. That is the interconnectedness of the SDGs. I'm so happy that you have grasped that, and we are working on it piece by piece. For your homework, however, I want to give you two. One is that you said that the world is so exciting and so on, and the world is fair. Dear young people, the world is not fair. Get that out of your minds and try to understand that although you might be in an elite space in terms of elite education, ask yourself whether you want to emerge as a member of the elites. And there is a big difference between being in an elite space and becoming elite. And I counterposition that with fairness, because sometimes from a certain vantage point, we might think all is the same, all is fair. Ask yourself, what is the homework you have to do around the world is not fair? And then you ask, and I was so impressed, you said that you choose progress. What do we choose? I heard you. In all my life, I thought I have chosen, and you are calling me to choose again. And I want to answer you. I want to tell you, like our sister here, that I will choose to continue to be a champion for the SDGs. And I invite you to help me do that. I choose to connect my country and students in the Eastern Caribbean with you. And I'm asking the president of your school to help me to do that. I choose to bring the idea of a completely student council to the Caribbean minister, and I ask you to help me with that. And I ask us to choose together, to choose transformation, which means disruption. Maybe, I don't know how you have it in mind, but we could all do something to disrupt, because Tony Leigh gave us the recipe, didn't he? He said that we must put social activism as part of our everyday life, and only each of us can define that. The social activism for the SDGs, I have already chosen less chemical in my life, less meat, less waste. And don't let me start on the food waste. Don't only distribute food waste. How about disrupting the pattern by reducing food waste? 40% of what we put on our plates, we do not eat. Stop it. Just put what we think we will eat, consume that. It will have a major impact from your kitchen right up the food chain. Only take what you can eat, then return for more. So there are many, many ways that we can disrupt the model, do more walking, use less electricity. I turn off all the electricity, all, when I'm out during the day. That's 12 hours, I'm gone. It helps my bill, it helps my conscience, and it helps the building. And use less running water. When you go to brush your teeth, do not turn on the water before you put the toothpaste on the toothbrush. Do everything. Brush your teeth, finish brush your teeth, and then use the water. Keep a little chart near the bathroom and find out how much water you have saved. Take the SDGs, in other words, into your day-to-day personal life and disrupt it, and that way you are meeting this consumption and production goal. And do your best, students, as you look for new goals, do your best to embrace SDGs number 12 on inequality. And I think you said it, the SDGs is a jigsaw. They really and truly cannot be disentangled. And for that reason, we have put them all together in one circle of life. You get all the SDGs. And this is my surprise for you. One of the speakers and one of the non-speakers, you will each be pinned if you come right away before they take the mic from me. One of the speakers and one of the non-speakers. Come and be pinned. Thank you. Hold on. What is your name? And where do you come from?
I'm from Portugal.
And
my school is in Abu Dhabi.
Your school is in Abu Dhabi.
Yes.
I'm very glad to get a girl and a boy. What is your name?
Daniela.
Daniela. Yeah. I am pinning you to the SDGs. How old are you?
I think I'm going to cry. 18.
I'm pinning you. And the SDGs are pinned to you.
Yes.
And you
this
are
is not
champion.
even my jacket.
The jacket is not yours, but the pin is yours. You are a champion of the SDGs. I'm watching you. For the next 13 years, what's your name?
I'm Luca.
Luca?
I'm from the UK, but my school's in Dubai.
Well, you are in Dubai over there?
Yeah.
So, Luca, you are pinned to the SDGs. SDGs are pinned to you. And you are a lifelong champion of the SDGs.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank Ms. Williams for her insights and for her presence as well. And now, excuse my ignorance, but I forgot to ask our children panelists, our children presenters, whether they would like to answer some of the questions of the audience. Okay. Mike?
In pertainment to your question about food wastage, a lot of our schools have been working on that as well. We have been able to integrate the idea of transparent trash cans within our schools to be able to successfully track the progress of our food wasted reduction, as well as being able to see our impact. Because I believe what you said is a very vital and key point, because yes, all our actions are so effective, but how effective can they be when we can't minimize our impact? And I believe that within the Southeast Asian schools, the primary schools have suggested these ideas. And the feasibility amongst developing nations is very feasible due to the simplicity of the plan itself. Having a transparent trash bin does not cost a lot of money. And yes, we may start with one within the school, and we're able to track our progress. And as soon as we make more progress, we're able to see how effective the solution is, as well as we have developed the idea of wastage in our cafeteria is being donated to local farmers and compost units to be able to fertilize the soil and further implement the lower class community and have them be able to make an economic gain as well.
I would like to address the question and statement stated by the gentleman over there, but I think that my answer will be applicable to nearly all questions, and is that the gentleman brought up the idea that we should be tackling the issue of poverty, which I completely agree with. We should be focusing on solving for poverty in the world. As a result of it, we will be able to sort all other problems in the world, including hunger, including lack of healthcare available to people due to their absence of financial security. And I believe that personally, one of the ways that we can use to actually tackle this goal number one, which is to end poverty, along with other problems surrounding the world today and pretty much all issues which we have in the world, in the modern world, is by securing our world with high quality education. Because in my opinion, educated people are basically destined to blossom as they enter the world. If they are well educated, they will be capable of getting any different kind of career. They will be able to invent something, develop our technologies even further, and since you're an engineer our world in even better way by engineering something new which can benefit the world. And if we were to implement a universal, well-structured educational system which will develop the ideas of enlightenment, the ideas of democracy and high ethics in the world we're living today, I believe we will be able to sort the issues of poverty, and not just that, but all others as well, because educated people will be able to basically fix any problems, whether it is something as inequality, because there will be no such thing as discrimination due to the fact that quite often people discriminate against each other due to the fact that they lack something on their own, and they will not lack anything. There will be no significant reason to discriminate. Or such issues as global warming, because who knows, maybe we'll be able to actually invent something which can allow us to defeat this issue. And you stated that there are no North Anglia schools in Africa, and I believe that if we were to potentially even build even more North Anglia schools, providing even such quality education and such great leadership team by Mr. Andrew Fitzmaurice, I think we will be able to educate people very well, and maybe potentially one thing that United Nations consider is investing even more money in education in the companies such as North Anglia Education, so we will be able to educate the society and develop it in a way which will allow every single person to prosper. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. And I think this brings us to the end of our event. I would like to express my deep gratitude to all the panelists, to all the children presenters today, to all the participants in the discussion, and to all of you here in this room for making this event a success with your powerful messages and insights. And I think that this event has proved once again how important is the empowerment of children as agents of change for achieving sustainable development and for better future for all of us. Thank you very, very much. The event is now closed. Thank you.